trends in all of our areas now are enterprise-centric. We've moved away from a business-centric, a line of business-centric model. Everything's enterprise-centric, and that's an industry move overall. Centers of excellence are prevalent now. So as technology is brought on, it is adopted by a center of excellence and then pushed out to the business, to the line of business. So it's a move that has been happening for several years and not one that's going to be immediately disrupted by the adoption of the cloud technologies. From a financial perspective, industry perspective, those are still in the early days, and a lot of it is regulatory. As I see it, we're dealing with a lot of regulatory pressure, and the adoption of the cloud technologies is a hybrid adoption model where you have an on-premise, off-premise solution set. I want to point out here, and I thought about this prior to this call, the Teradata situation is one that I'm absolutely seeing. It's a downward trend. They seemingly have missed the boat. They have some glaring technical issues that were pointed out in recent years. When you talk about what's going on in the world with the cybersecurity, enterprise data security is a extremely high value area, an area where a lot of time from a regulatory perspective is being spent. And one of the things that was impressed upon us by our regulators was encryption, data encryption, encryption in flight and encryption at rest.
Yeah.
Well, most of your technology platforms have it's a simple flip of the switch, if you will. It's not a hard job, and encryption is built in. Teradata doesn't have that. They didn't have a solution at all until we got with them and spent several years working with third-party vendors to get a solution set that we could use. But we'd spent several tens of millions of dollars to manually encrypt data on the Teradata platform. So they've got some security problems. Their cloud solution is lacking. So we're definitely seeing the Teradata, the trends here that you're showing are, and the TIBCO trends, that's been going on for a long time. So I don't really think I need to even speak to that. But the Teradata trending is, and vis-a-vis the AWS, that's definitely what we're seeing. So the data here maps again to what I'm seeing in the marketplace, and specifically wanted to call out the Teradata issues that we're seeing because there is an explanation around that. The Oracle situation is one that their cloud platform isn't as robust as the true cloud, as the AWS, Microsoft, and others. So Oracle is suffering from a cloud platform, the robustness of it. We've researched it, we looked at it, and we did not adopt it. So there's a gap in the Oracle solution set that while they're still on the positive side, they're definitely not where the others are. The Microsoft, we're in a huge adoption. We have tens of thousands of servers stood up in the Microsoft cloud, the Azure platform. So again, Oracle's seemingly not as robust as the other solution sets.
Yeah, so many great points there, but to stick on Oracle, what we're seeing is because of their lack of success with their cloud migration, that it's not only affecting them on the data side, but even on the software side as well. Their old ERP modules are really losing to other more cloud native type of competitors. It was a real miss there, and even more to your point on making a miss, and nobody enjoys seeing this. Teradata was a great company for a very long time. You and I have been around a while, and they were the top notch. They really did own the Fortune 100 when you needed to have secure data migration. And it's just a shame that they really did miss it. But your point about the new regulatory issues and the need to encrypt this at rest is just too important. I don't even know if it's something they can come back from when you're now looking at what AWS offers or what a Snowflake offers. Do you see an opportunity for Teradata to fix this?
It's
Yeah.
that's a real good question, and you know, we're not looking at coming back. We're not looking at coming back.
Understood. And I'll leave it at that. One other thing I wanted to ask you about while we're here is sort of the data observability space, right? So the data has to be fed into something, and we've got a lot of names in the mix, that's for sure. We have, Dynatrace, App Dynamics. You have New Relic is maybe one of the newer ones, Datadog, Elastic being an open source, kind of freemium model. And of course, you have the one that's been around for the longest time, Splunk. Curious, sir, if this is something that's in your purview, but I had one of your peers recently mention, because of how crowded it is, because the lines are blurring between, infrastructure and application data monitoring, they called this entire sector a race to the bottom. And I would be curious to hear if you could refute that, or if you had any particular view on the players in this space.
I'd have to agree that it's a crowded space. We've got a long-term relationship with Splunk, so that's a platform that we're familiar with. But from a technology perspective, there's just a lot going on in this space. So when you say race to the bottom, it's not a technology race to the bottom. The technology is ever expanding, and the solution sets are blurring from specific application data. So it's the technology is definitely advancing, but true, when you say race to the bottom, it's a dog eat dog world, and it's definitely a lot going on in this space, and blurring. There's not a true leader. So really, I don't see a lot of movement between the platforms until if you're on one, you're gonna at this point stick with it. There's no reason it's not advanced enough or differentiated enough to make a jump right now, unless it's a big cost savings. So that may be the context of the race to the bottom is cost.
Yeah, very much so. Not the technology, right? And because we serve the CIO community and you and your peers, this is actually a good problem, because what it means is the technology is advancing, but they have to compete now on cost and right. to retain you. And that is the one negative we've been hearing with names like that. And also, I would put Dynatrace in there. Sure. These are Fortune 500 entrenched names that maybe in the past have had a little bit too aggressive on their pricing models, and now you have other options coming in that are willing to do it at a much cheaper rate. I mean, New Relic's willing to give it away for free, for Christ's sake. So it's going to be a difficult thing to say. But one thing I want to take on a positive note is your comment that if you already are on a platform, there's really no incentive to leave it. And to me, that's a very positive thing for Splunk because of how well entrenched they are. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's organizational inertia against moving away from Splunk. There's definitely built-in technology solution sets and support models that are well entrenched within the organization.
All right, I really do appreciate that, sir. I'm going to jump a little bit over here now towards what we classify more as the actual, data management or data warehouse side of things. And should be no surprise that one of the first names that pop up there is Snowflake, red hot darling of the industry. You can't really fight against Frank Slootman and what he's done in the past. Maybe just want to take on your opinion. I don't know if you're using them or not, but I'm sure you're well aware of the quick adoption that they're having in the enterprise. So I would love just from a higher level, your thoughts on Snowflake.
Sure, absolutely. We've looked at them. We're not using them. We're actively evaluating them. They'll need to go through the Center of Excellence, as we mentioned, as I
Mhm.
mentioned. So it is an area, but from that of interest. But there's a lot going on in the space. We're really cloud focused with some of the larger cloud platforms like Google, AWS. Lesser on the Microsoft side when you're talking data. For us,
Mhm.
Microsoft is app. Their data solutions are not robust enough and at the scale that we're looking for. Again, you see Teradata failing in this space, and that's and IBM too is not really where they need to be. So um, definitely, Snowflake is an interest, but for us, it's a future interest. Right now, our focus is on the large cloud platforms and how we can integrate that in a hybrid model.
Great feedback there. I'm going to kind of stick with this for a second. The reason I thought, taking a guess that Snowflake might be involved was because you were talking about how you were really dedicated to a hybrid model. And Snowflake really allows that portability to take data from different silos and have it migrate, have it move. So that's why I thought maybe it might be on your radar. So great feedback that you are evaluating it, looking at it, but maybe it's just not proven enough yet to work at an organization of your size and stature. AWS, great comment there, because when people look at the Microsoft versus AWS as a cloud, they don't really realize that Microsoft's cloud presence is really application centric, right? And whereas AWS is a true infrastructure platform and data platform.
Right.
And I think there's a huge distinction between the two. And even we here as a research company will show the cloud data that Microsoft is actually catching up, if not overtaking them. But what we don't really break out is how much of that is just simply a hosted Office 365 versus what
Right.
AWS is doing, which is so leading edge on the data side. So maybe we
Right.
could just talk a little bit about that from a data perspective, not the Microsoft side, but AWS, but all of the things that they are doing there and how you're utilizing, and any differentiation you can give us about their data offering would be really helpful.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we're again in the early stages of looking at the AWS solution. We've got our Microsoft Azure platform up and running. It's thousands of applications, Microsoft-based applications. But as you said, a lot of Microsoft Office type. There's not a lot of data distinctions there. So what we're looking at is what are the cloud offerings, the data cloud offerings, and our big data is up and running. We're moving data into our big data solution, but it's all on site today. And the movement is that we can extend that big data solution to an AWS platform. That is not the thought process with the Microsoft platform. So the abilities of AWS to support our big data vision vis-a-vis Microsoft are far and away greater and much more robust.
I agree. And you also mentioned Google, sir. And when I hear Google mentioned at an enterprise of your size, a lot of times that is not for the larger sets of data, but it's more for subsets of data that people are trying to do more machine learning and AI around. Their BigQuery product is one that comes up a lot. So be curious to the extent you're willing to tell us how you're utilizing Google for what specific use.
Google's not in our big data
Okay.
strategy and vision. We are very interested in the machine learning and the AI space, and that still has not moved out of the centers of excellence to operational.